You are listening to NewVision, OldWays, the podcast that explores timeless wisdom for the modern mind in a fun, relaxed, and most important, interactive way with you, the listener. I am your host, Tony Marinaccio, and let's get the episode started. Welcome, everyone, to another great episode of the NewVision, OldWays podcast. And yes, you guessed it. I am your host, Tony Marinaccio, and I am so happy you are joining me for the second part of the two-part series about courage, unlocking your boldest self. Hopefully, you listened to the first episode of this series where I went over a lot in a short period of time. If you haven't listened, it will be truly helpful that you go back and play that one first. And then this episode will tie it all together. I promise you that. In the last episode, I built the framework around how our brains process fear and courage. I went over the many factors that can affect those processes and why it is so important for us to really pay attention to what we are putting in our bodies and how important it is that we have all the areas of the brain functioning in the most optimal way. This is so necessary for us to be able to rationalize fear and to be able to act courageously when needed. In this episode, I want to discuss how we can help our brains wire in and rewire the necessary habits needed to attain the confidence and courage we all have in us. It's there. We just need to find it and bring it to the surface. So without further ado, let's get episode number 25 started. Courage, Unlocking Your Boldest Self, Part 2. I ended the last episode referring to our brain's health. It should be obvious that we need to take care of our brain just like we would work out in a gym. Our brains control everything, and we all tend to pay too little attention to strengthening our brains and repairing the damage that has occurred from not paying attention to our bad habits and correcting them before we do irreversible damage. Of course, in certain instances, physical damage to the brain can be severe, and that is understood. But taking that into consideration, most of us have the control to change our brains, rewire them successfully, removing our bad habits, and learn to be as courageous as we will all allow ourselves to be. It can be done. So why then does courage feel so challenging to some and almost out of reach for others? There are some reasons for this, and I will start with our evolutionary programming. From an evolutionary perspective, our brains are wired for survival, not bravery. Avoiding risk often kept our ancestors safe, especially when running away from dinosaurs. However, in our modern life where there are no dinosaurs, this instinct can really hold us back, making acts of courage, whether confronting a toxic boss or pursuing a dream, feel daunting. Our brains naturally seek homeostasis, which is the process by which an organism maintains a stable internal environment in response to changes in its external environment. And also, our brains seek familiarity. Acts of courage often push us out of our comfort zone, requiring significant mental energy to override these ingrained patterns. So, with the ever-present evolutionary programming we have endured and the comfort zone effect, it can easily be a struggle to find the courage that we all desire to have. But the good news is we can wire this attribute into our brains and, maybe not instantly, but gradually gain the confidence and courage we seek. If you haven't noticed, many of the previous episodes that I spoke about how we can rewire our own brains were a precursor to these types of episodes where we can drill down to a specific trait or ability we want to strengthen. You must first learn, though, the basics of how to rewire your brain on your terms. Then, and only then, will you be able to have the ability to concentrate on a singular element you want to change and improve on. It's great when a plan comes together, and that's the plan. My plan is to help all of us find new ways using already known techniques to change our brains on our own terms, not the media's, not other people's, our terms. And knowing that will unlock not only the courage we want, but any other ability we want to strengthen. Right now the cat is out of the bag and he's not going back in unless we let it. So here are a few ways to specifically target and improve your courage level. This is where all that I spoke about in the first episode of this series will come together and it will all make sense. So let's start with exposure therapy. This is a great starting point for anyone. This involves a gradual exposure to feared situations that can desensitize the amygdala. Remember that? See, I told you there was a reason why I was going over all that stuff. For instance, if public speaking terrifies you, then start by speaking in front of a small, supportive group. Over time, this rewires the brain to perceive the activity as less threatening. It's a form of cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, that can be effective for treating a range of conditions, including phobias, panic disorder, social anxiety disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD. It can be a very effective way to gradually gain the confidence and courage you are striving for. Another great strategy for rewiring the brain for courage is to reframe fear. Cognitive reframing is a technique supported by the prefrontal cortex. This can transform fear into excitement or turn it into a challenge. For example, instead of thinking, I'm terrified of failing, reframe it as, this is a chance for me to grow and learn. In episode 22, I spoke about how important it is to learn from success or failure. It's all teaching moments. And the more we accept the lessons it provides, the better we can be. The people that don't learn the lessons, well, they will stay right where they are, never moving forward, never growing, never feeling fulfillment. Lessons are to be learned and remembered. Another way to rewire the brain for courage is our tried and true method from episode 4, and that is to engage in mindfulness. Mindfulness practices help strengthen the connection between the prefrontal cortex and the amygdala. This makes it easier to stay calm and focused in the face of fear. When we are mindfully courageous, we do push our boundaries while being mindful of what we are doing. It helps us understand why people around us are reacting the way they are and how we need to respond when unexpected things happen. And we all know they always do. So be prepared for that by using the mindfulness techniques we have gone over on this podcast. They really do help. Another place that courage can come from is by being strong and anchored in your values. Concepts like mindfulness, stoicism, the Tao Te Ching can all help with this. Getting in touch with your inner voice and meditating can help you understand what your true values are. Those can get lost in our crazy, busy lives, dominated by the media and outside forces. So digging deep and connecting with your inner self will shed light on what your values are. Courage is often driven by deeply held values and a strong sense of purpose. So remind yourself why you are taking a risk. This engages the prefrontal cortex and aligns your actions with your long-term goals. Hopefully, if I have done my job in both of these episodes, you can now see how all of this is connecting. And another way to rewire your brain can be to visualize your success. I have mentioned this before, but it is so important. Visualizing primes the brain for action by imagining yourself successfully confronting a fear. You activate neural pathways associated with courage, making it easier to act when the time comes.
You know, the pressures on us are overwhelming from Wall Street or our own egos or from internal incentive structures or our bosses, whatever it is. The pressures are overwhelming for us to play the finite game. And so how do you stand up to massive external pressure? Courage. And courage is something that comes from relationships. You know, it's external. A world-famous trapeze artist would never attempt a brand new death-defying act for the first time without a net. They would never do it. So why do we think that we could do something difficult without external support too? I've had the opportunity to meet real heroes, people who've risked their lives to save the lives of others with the belief that they were going to die, and they didn't. And when asked, why did you do it? They all say something similar, which is they would have done it for me. It's external. And so we have to have We have to take the time to foster and take care of people around us, to nurture our relationships, because when we're going to be doing something difficult, when we're going to be swimming upstream, when we're going to be innovating and doing something different, there are days we're going to doubt ourselves. There are days we're going to get knocked in our ass. There are days that storms are going to rise, and we have to have people who say, I got your back.
That was Simon Sinek, an author and speaker. And what he said was very important. It's not only vital to visualize your success, but just as important is to surround yourself with supportive people, not just like-minded people, but people with all kinds of opinions and views can still be supportive in an open-minded atmosphere. Social connections help to boost oxytocin levels, which can counteract fear and promote feelings of safety and belonging. A strong support network encourages risk-taking and acts of courage. As I have said before in various episodes, I know this can be a tough area. We should not disregard people simply because of their different views. In fact, we should seek them out. But even with different views, they can still be supportive and honest at the same time. And the honesty that they show will help you grow. I get at times there may be situations that can be abusive and difficult. And at that point, decisions need to be made to alter your support network when truly needed. Having support, though, is crucial for many, and it takes courage to make those decisions. So as you can see, we can alter our brains and our lives to incorporate the courage you want to have, but it takes time, practice, and commitment, but it will change your life for the better. And as we now know, courage is not just an inherent trait, but a skill that can be nurtured and developed by understanding the neuroscience behind it that we've discussed. Again, check out episode 24 in part 1 of this series. We can train our brains to act boldly in the face of fear. Each act of courage strengthens your neural pathways, making bravery an integral part of your life's narrative. A major factor in all of this is what's called emotional intelligence, or EI. Emotional intelligence and courage are deeply interconnected, as both involve understanding and managing emotions in oneself and others, especially in challenging situations. Emotional intelligence begins with self-awareness. Understanding your own emotions and triggers is valuable in being able to regulate your emotions and think clearly. This, of course, allows you to overcome fear and allow your courage to spring forth. Courage often requires recognizing fear, doubt, or discomfort and acting in alignment with your values despite those emotions. Without self-awareness, it's difficult to identify when courage is needed or what's holding you back. Emotional intelligence helps regulate your emotions, avoiding impulsive reactions and staying composed under pressure. Courage often calls for resilience, persisting in the face of adversity. Managing emotions like fear or frustration allows for clear thinking and deliberate action. Managing your emotions by gaining the emotional intelligence you need is so important, especially these days with most of us being stuck in some sort of device most of the day and being bombarded by information. It's easy to forget that your emotions can get away from you if you let them. So having the ability to manage them properly will allow you to see and feel comfortable with the situations that call for your courage to come to the surface. Otherwise, you may miss those opportunities where your courage would have made a big difference in the outcome. So at this point, I want to challenge you by a call to action. I want you to think of one small courageous act that you can do today, whether it's speaking up when before you wouldn't have, or stepping out of your comfort zone, or embracing another kind of challenge, and use that act of courage to start your journey to the you were meant to be. And you can do this. One step at a time is all it takes. You have the power within you, and you need to know that every bold choice you make rewires your brain for the greater courage for the next opportunity to use it. It's in you. It's in all of us. So let's dig deep and pull out the courage you know you have so we can all live better, healthier, and more fulfilling lives.
Courage is designed to move, which is why one bold action can completely transform your life. It's why one step forward can create space for you to experience and obtain things you've never had before.
That was the founder of Your World Within, Eddie Pinero. And he reaffirms what I am saying. One bold action can change your life forever. Take that step. Find out for yourself that you are bolder and more courageous than you ever imagined. Don't let fear control you. You control it. Once that happens, you will be a force to be reckoned with. Franklin Delano Roosevelt once said in his famous inaugural address, the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. Conquer that, and there will be no end to what you can do. So, what are your thoughts on both parts 1 and 2 of this series on courage? I would love to find out, and here is where to get a hold of the show and let us know. These are in the show notes, but as always, here they are. There is a new link that you can click on in the show notes that will allow you to donate to the show and show your support. By donating what you can, it will allow me to book guests and cover costs. Anything will help. You can cancel at any time, and it is through Buzzsprout, my host, and very safe and secure. So thank you for that. You can also message the show from each episode on your various platforms. Just look for the send us a text message link, and you can send us a message that way. If that doesn't work for you, you can email us at newvisionoldways@gmail.com. That again is newvisionoldways@gmail.com. You can find us on what was Twitter, now X, at NewVision Old Way. Remember, there's no S on that one. At NewVision Old Way. Check out the NewVision Old Ways YouTube channel. Type in NewVision, one word, Old Ways, one word, and please subscribe. It is free and will show support for the show, and it really means a lot and will help grow the show on YouTube. Find us on Facebook. Again, one word for NewVision, Old Ways, podcast, and you should easily find us. And as a reminder, these are growing platforms for us and expanding all the time. So we need your help to get the flow going with the community. And last but not least, if you could do me a huge favor and subscribe to us, like us, follow us, leave a review on whatever platform you found us on, that would be so appreciated. And that will also help secure guests that we will be booking in the future. We are now firmly in season 3, and this season is going to have a few surprises along the way. And I truly hope you will enjoy it. I can't wait to get your input, and I also can't wait until we get together for the next episode of New Vision, Old Ways. Until then, stay true to yourself, stay informed, and stay empowered.
But the most important thing is...
This episode of New Vision, Old Ways has been written, engineered, and produced by your host, Tony Marinaccio, and TKM Productions.